So welcome to my Florence Nightingale Leadership Scholarship Journey. My name is Hannah Spencer. I am Head of Nursing for Women's Health and Paediatrics at Ashford and St Peter's Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust. I am by trade a registered children's nurse and very proud of this. I'm also currently undertaking my Masters in International Healthcare Management. After actually training at the University of Surrey in the hospital I now work in, I can happily say I have well and truly come full circle. I started life as a qualified nurse by doing what many students doing and running to London to the bright lights, where I undertook a rotational post until I eventually landed on paediatric burns and fell in love. I stayed there until I became the sister on the National Paediatric Burns Unit, at which point I eventually went to the Bupa Cromwell as their outpatient sister. This is where my journey started, and I stayed at Bupa until I became the paediatric manager there. In December 2019, I got the opportunity to take up the post of Head of Nursing at 8B level for Peds and Neo at Ashford St Peter's, and that's when I came there. And in 2020 September, I officially joined the divisional quartet as Head of Nursing for Women's Health and Paediatrics. I'm also very proud to say I am a BAME nurse leader, something that is very special at this level within the NHS. I would say that my biggest challenge about this next slide is actually going to be fitting it into just 2 minutes. The Florence has done so many things for me that I can't possibly tell you them all. So here are a few of my highlights. I would say RADA is up there as an extrovert. I loved it, but at the same time it really challenged who I was and it made me look internally at the way I think and do things and really push my boundaries. It's a really incredible tool that I don't think you can quite put into words, but it has made a huge difference to me. As a driver, it's also taught me that I need to go last. It keeps my attention, it keeps me engaged, and actually it makes for a really good meeting. I would say I've learned to be more Mary, as Mary Seacole is someone who, like me, is half Jamaican, half Scottish. It's something that's really lit a fire in me and really made me think about the way she lives her life and the way that she would push her boundaries, and that is something that I now try to do myself. It has grown my confidence. As an extrovert, it's easy to assume that they all ooze confidence, but they don't. And I would say that it has taught me that when fear of failure tempts you to take a risk courageously, this is something I try and live by now. I started this journey as essentially an outpatient sister that was acting up, and I'm now a head of nursing 8C, which is a huge journey and an incredible path to take in probably what is just over 2 years. I would also say my most important thing is the Florence 22. It's 21 other women who lift me up and empower me professionally and personally. I can truly say, although I think they will tell you if I don't, that on our first residential I had a panic attack at the thought of spending much time with that many women. It has been the best thing that has come out of this for me, and I truly have found friends for life. So my project was about the voice of children and young people, really understanding how they want to tell us what they want to tell us and how we harness that best. So I spent some time, as I mentioned, at the children's hospitals in the north to look at the way they take their feedback. But then I took that back with all the information and the opportunities and ways people take feedback across the country. And I asked our children and young people, how is it you want your voice heard? Because as an adult, it's very easy to assume I know the answer. So what I did was actually not discount the voice of their parents, but I split it out so we could understand whose opinion was the parents' opinion, whose opinion was the children and young people's opinion. Interestingly, they both gave the same option, that they wanted to give their opinion electronically right here, right now. Not when they'd gone home. They didn't want a retrospective survey. They didn't want to talk about it. They didn't want a focus group, which I thought they might do. It's give it to me right here, right now, and I'll do it. So I looked at that. I looked at the opportunities, and what we did was we got a kiosk system with a designable software that meant we could ask questions that we need to ask, but in a way that is appropriate for our children and young people, and a way we can identify actually who had filled in the survey. And that could be put in the inpatient and the outpatient setting, and it could actually line up with what Bupa needed it to say, so they could pull the metrics from it in line with the wider hospital surveys. But more excitingly, it would be a tool that actually is changeable, but is also replicable within adult services if they chose to do that as well. So the impact. As I mentioned, I actually have left Bupa Cromwell, and before I left, the project was approved and signed off and was ready. The hardware is there. The software, unfortunately, they're no longer happy with. So they are looking at new options in how they can do that, and when that happens, that will be implemented. But the risk assessment's been done, the questions are ready, and knowing what we know about other people that use this, it's going to be a really exciting step forward. But not content with sitting still, in my new job, I have looked at other opportunities to take on improvement projects. So actually, COVID has afforded me the opportunity to grow and develop very, very quickly and push my limits and boundaries beyond what I would have expected before. So there are two key improvement projects that really stand out to me, that have made a difference to me, to my colleagues, and to my service users and their families. As part of the first wave, we actually had to move our children and young people out of their original ward. And the challenge when we came back was, what I had was a day ward and an inpatient ward that were very intertwined and codependent on each other. And what we needed was a model that made them work without crossing over, in order to future-proof the place for our children and young people. So as part of my job, what I ended up doing was redesigning those units to make sure that they were future-proof and that they could stand alone. And the impact of that has meant that in the second wave, we haven't had to move. But more importantly than that, our inpatient unit has been able to function as it would, with the right capacity for what we needed at the time, without impacting our day unit, which sees anything from a surgical to a medical to an oncology patient. So our oncology unit is a big part of that, and they have been able to safely bring in their children and young people and continue to function throughout that time. That is something that has been really, really important throughout the last few months. And I'd say my biggest impact improvement project would be setting up our hospital COVID vaccination hub with my team. It has been a huge and very exciting journey, but to see the difference it's making to approximately, so far, 10,000 health and social care workers across our patch has been an incredible honour, an incredible project to get my head round, and be able to set up a pop-up service has been quite a task, but I am very much looking forward to round 2 and those second doses. So as always, my leadership journey has not been quite straightforward, but it has been incredibly exciting and full of opportunities. So what message would I like to send to Bupa? I don't think thank you cuts it, really. I would say, thank you for seeing the potential in me when perhaps I wasn't even ready to see it myself. Thank you for investing in me, knowing that part of that would probably mean that eventually I would grow my wings and fly away. Thank you for releasing me as a very proud, very confident BAME nurse leader in a time where there has been so much need for it. Thank you for releasing me as a senior leader back into the NHS system to fight the global pandemic that we have fought in the last year, to support my teams and my colleagues and my children and young people in what has been the most life-altering time of possibly all of our careers. Thank you for teaching me, in the words of Maya Angelou, that I may encounter many feats, but I will never be defeated. So thank you, Bupa, and thank you to the Florence Nightingale Foundation for giving me an experience that has been beyond my imagination, anticipation, or explanation.